Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be talking about one of my favourite TV programmes of all time, Doctor Who. Yeah, so today we'll be counting down my top 10 favourite episodes from my favourite Doctor, the 10th Doctor, David Tennant. So number 10 is The Unicorn and the Wasp, and to be honest, I like this episode just because it's sort of light-hearted and funny and just very enjoyable to watch. I love the sort of murder mystery aspects, and Agatha Christie, Donna Noble, and the Doctor's chemistry is just amazing, and it's just such a fun episode. Number 9 is Human Nature / The Family of Blood. I like how the Doctor is there, but also not, and Martha is basically like the hero of the episode. It's all down to her, and it doesn't really make much sense at the beginning, but then throughout the episode you realise like what's happened. I also love like the villains and how Baines gets possessed by the Family of Blood, and also how all of the Doctor's consciousness is stored inside the fob watch. In number 8 is Army of Ghosts / Doomsday. I love how there's sort of so many crazy revelations in this. The fact that the ghosts are actually Cybermen, introduction to Tortured, and then the fact that the Daleks are introduced, that's just the icing on the cake, and how they sort of fight in it. But also there is obviously very sort of emotional parts of the episode, which is revealed at the beginning that this is the story of how Rose died. And it's actually just so well. The fact that the Doctor is usually so sort of self-contained and calm, like how he screams no when Rose loses her grip and gets plunged into, well, almost hell. But then Pete saves her, and that was another great thing. How Pete returned, Mickey returned, just so many like great things about this episode. And it was just funny and emotional. It had the perfect balance between the two. Number 7 is the Sometimes Stratagem / The Poison Sky. It's kind of like an Earth invasion, but it's not at all generic because they're not using like guns and weapons or anything. They're using cars and gas to destroy the Earth. And also, I love how there's both Martha and Donna in it. And just the episode is just generally just fun. There's just so many funny moments in it, and just great lines. And Wilf's in it, of course, and he's brilliant. Number 6 is Partners in Crime. This episode is it's quite a light-hearted one, but it's just so funny, and just the way that the Doctor and Donna just get reunited, that is brilliant. And there's no sort of darkness or scariness in it. It's just living fact, but there's no sort of proper villain apart from Miss Foster, and it's just a really enjoyable episode to watch, and especially the twist at the end when you see Rose has returned. Number 5 now, The End of Time. There are just so many amazing moments in it, especially how the Master returns, and it's all about Wilf, and him and the Doctor have just such great chemistry together. How Donna is there, but she isn't like a main character, and just this thing is just so brilliant, and just it's kind of funny and creepy at the same time when the Master turns every single person in the world into himself. And the last minutes are just so amazing about how like the Doctor regenerates. It's just one of the most dramatic scenes ever when he says, "I don't want to go," but then goes from that to Matt Smith, and he's just like checking himself out, saying like, "Oh, still not ginger legs. I've still got legs." And all that, and it's just there couldn't really have been a better way to end the 10th Doctor's era. Number 4, The Waters of Mars. I just think this episode is quite similar to the Fires of Pompeii, but even better. And there's no companion, well, kind of, apart from Captain Adelaide Brooke. But I love how each individual crew member has their own sort of individual interesting personality, and they're all interesting in a different way. It's kind of like a zombie slash vampire story, but with a twist. And the Doctor knows what's going to happen, and he sort of changes his mind at the end. He wants to save some people. And it's just also great how Gadget, first of all, he's just an annoying robot, but in the end, he saves the day. But this episode is overall one of the darker ones. I mean, there's a lot of people dying, and especially the suicide at the end. Number 3, Voyage of the Damned. There was just so much to love about this episode. It's funny. There are emotional moments. All the characters are interesting in their own way. Even the villain, I think he's kind of funny, Max Capricorn, and the hosts, and also just the music of this episode is just brilliant. And it's quite a heartwarming ending, even after Astrid dies. The whole fact that the Doctor is able to save the Earth by controlling the ship, and how Mr. Copper, how he wasn't really expecting him to be a survivor, but he was, and then just how happy he is because he can spend his last few years on Earth, and he's got lots of money, which it isn't traditionally thought of as like a really good ending. But I really enjoyed it. Just this whole episode was just very enjoyable. Probably definitely the best Christmas special. Number 2, Silence in the Library / Forest of the Dead. Whoa. This episode, I love the setting of it, and the Vashnarada are one of the coolest villains ever. Shadows that kill, and the fact that they're in a dark library. There's just so many things I love about this episode. Even how the plot twist of how you think the library is inside a little girl's mind, but it turns out that the little girl's mind is actually inside the library. Also, you get the introduction to River Song, which doesn't make much sense at the time, but then if we look back at it, then we realise the true extent of what happened in that episode. And of course, who could forget the fact that Donna went transported into that fake world, and it was just really interesting how they played with time there and how time progresses in a dream. It skips forward to the important bits, but you think that time has already passed normally. It was just very, very chilling. And also, like Dr. Moon, he's very calm, but there is something sort of creepy about him. You just sort of think he's sort of evil in some sort of weird way. But it's such a cool episode. Both parts of it, I love. Before I get to number 1, here are some honourable mentions. There are so many good episodes with the 10th Doctor, but I've narrowed it down to just 5. So they are School Reunion, The Girl in the Fireplace, Turn Left, The Stolen Earth / Journey's End, Planet of the Dead. And my number 1 favourite Doctor Who episode with the 10th Doctor is Blink. I love it. The Weeping Angels are one of my favourite villains of all time. I felt the Doctor isn't really in the episode much, but he is ever present, and his sort of timey-wimey speech is just so quotable. It's one of the most iconic moments in the show. And also I love the characters of Sally and Larry. They're just two ordinary people who come across this crazy adventure. And it doesn't really make much sense at the start. You don't really get what's going on. But, it comes together just so beautifully. The Doctor is defeated at the end, but also at the beginning. It's such a timey-wimey episode. and there's so many great scenes, like when Billy dies. You can see that he has had a good life, but it is sad now at the moment because, well, he's died, and that was how they realised how much was at stake and how dangerous the Weeping Angels really are. It's just, so many amazing quotes and just bits from it. And that is why, in my opinion, Blink is the #1 best Doctor Who episode of the 10th Doctor, possibly throughout the entire of New Who. That's it, really. Bye.